Okay, here's us winging it.
Again.
Yarn lung.
Look, it must be cold out. We're both wearing sweaters.
I know. I got to wear my COVID sweater in today, and I think my cat's really upset with me. Although this is not his favorite thing to lie on anymore, it is one of his places. I could show you all the places his tongue's gotten stuck on it. So it's fuzzy. But hello, good morning, and welcome to the Sun Dragon Sideshow.
The Adventures of Liz and Rebecca.
Yes.
Monday edition. Well, actually, it's Tuesday or Monday.
It's our Monday.
Yeah.
And people who watch us enough know this.
Yeah.
Know that this is what they get. So, yeah. And we had even less time to prep for this because it's already, go away. It's already after 9:20, and we need to open the shop by 10. So
we had morning complications.
Yeah. I had my tire light. I was like, I was kind of on time, but kind of running late, but and then my tire light was on. 2 of my tires were low, which is never good. But only 2 rather than like all 4 are low because it's colder outside. One of them is one of the ones that I already had patched in pandemic times because it blew a hole. So I just have to keep an eye on that. Both of them. I didn't drive anywhere this weekend. I hunkered down and the temperature changed. Yeah. But why only 2 of them would be low is weird. And low enough that is not great. I put air in them. Good, faithful, keeping care of my car. And the light did go off. It's always a little wonky when the light doesn't go off right away because it's got to adjust. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm going anyway. And it did not come back on the whole way into town. I have my air compressor with me. I'm going to check before I go home. Hopefully that's the worst of my car problems. So, because my car is like 12 years old. It's a good car, but it's 12 years old. So, don't worry, mom and dad and all the surrogate moms and dads who are watching. I'm keeping an eye on it. So, anyway, but that meant I just got in here. Oh my gosh. You got in here ahead of me.
Just barely. And
you were running late too. So,
I kept hitting snooze during a dream.
It happens. When you're really, really tired, it happens.
I woke up at 5 and I looked at my phone and I went, it's 5. Okay, pull the covers over because fans and cold night air. Awesome. Mm-hmm. And I was like, am I going to be able to fall back to sleep before 6:30 because I've got to get up and make
and then you lunch. Have people saying, wake up.
And then about 7:30 or so, my husband went, are you waking up today? And I was like, what time is it?
Ooh, that's the worst way to wake up to.
I sent Rebecca a text saying, hey, I didn't hear it because it fell in a thing of yarn. Turned out I'd been hitting snooze and I don't remember it. I need to change my alarm.
I had a roommate in college who would actually sleepwalk across the room, hit the alarm, and get back in bed and go back to sleep. Shout out to Nora. So, I've seen more than that. But we should introduce ourselves in case there's someone watching for the first time. I'm Rebecca. I'm the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in lovely but overcast but foggy downtown Brevard, North Carolina.
And the minion at Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in foggy Brevard,
and
North
your name
Carolina.
is?
I'm Liz.
Yes.
I'm the minion. Sorry.
You may have picked that up from the Adventures of Liz and Rebecca. However, we should be clear. So
we should. It's still early.
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna be fun. Anyway, I was gonna say, but I'm feeling almost rested because I've tried the melatonin you gave me for 2 nights in a row now. And the first night was just heavy sleep. I think the cat did not attack me as many times during the night because I wasn't flinching in my sleep because I was out. So
that first
a vicious
night
cycle
melatonin is
I was pretty groggy in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, but it
was Monday, so
out.
Well, and then I took it last night, but I also took a nap during the day yesterday because Mondays, even with good sleep, I will crash because I'm doing a lot, even though I'm home. So I didn't drop right off to sleep last night. I was like, And I woke up when the cat woke up because he flinched or I flinched or something at like 4 a.m. But I still think I got a decent amount of rest. So
that's always a plus.
yes. So we'll see how this week goes, because on Saturday we are having our fourth. I can't remember how many times we've done it now.
Fourth.
Might be fourth. Oh yeah, fourth. Sit and stitch, virtual sit and stitch on the weekend, where we do it with both Zoom and Facebook Live. So 1 to 5 p.m. on Saturday. You can join us on Zoom, or you can join us on Facebook Live, that can depend on your comfort level, or wanting to see other people or not wanting to see other people, because Facebook Live is just me, but you hear other people. Computer's usually over here, so I point that way. Or I've discovered that opening up Zoom, can't get my words right, opening up Zoom and putting in our phone number is one way to join. When you hit join a meeting and they need a code. There's also putting in a web address, and I think Zoom has gotten so popular, it's not just zoom.us/J. It's a different address now, which I may or may not have gotten correctly. It's to put in the address into your phone, or your computer. Phone's a little easier, I think.
Tack that in the.
Yeah, definitely. Like I have to switch it. Okay, I did get it right on the Instagram post I put out. Sorry, my words. I'm still waking up here. The Instagram post I put out about knit night. It's now us02web.zoom.us/J/ our shop phone number 828-877-3550. Like, I think they've had to compartmentalize it because of the volume by country.
Yeah.
So if anyone's tried to join with the simpler address and it hasn't worked, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that Zoom has upgraded a lot, because everybody's using it. We're filming on it right now, but it's just not being, alive. You can watch us or join the meeting. So secrets revealed. Anyway. So Liz, how was your weekend?
It was interesting. I actually finished my red sweater.
Yes, and you said you wouldn't be cold enough to wear it. Are you boiling at the moment?
I am getting warm.
I'm comfy. I'm comfy
getting
right
warm
now, but
no ends are not woven in yet.
And you're planning to block it?
I need to block it.
It looks good. It looks very good.
This needs some blocking. This up here needs blocking.
Once again, blocking it helps stitches settle. It's kind of like your first washing of it, and you can lay it out and let things set. Sometimes pin it, sometimes not. Depends on how the sizing is going. I am a fan of not overly stretching something like a sweater.
I'm going to measure all my little bits and then lay it out and make sure all the measurements hit those little bits, just so that I don't.
I hear about people online who say, I made a super wash. That's not super wash, by the way. Bless you. Thank you. She's pre-blocking. She's sneezing into it. Little moisture, just a little. But I see people online in chat groups that say, I had a superwash merino sweater and I blocked it and it's huge now. And I wonder, I could be wrong, but I wonder if part of it is when something is wet, it has the tendency to want to grow. And if you engage with that and you either just lay it out or you stretch it because you think that's what you're supposed to do with blocking, it will get bigger.
Well, it
will take a new form.
That's interesting, because last night I was surfing blocking my knitting on Pinterest, and
I don't spend enough time on Pinterest.
Pinterest is like any question you ever had, or pictures or whatever. Yes. Anyway, one of the videos that they had was this girl. She'd made rectangles, and she gets it wet in a tiny little bowl. That I was like, okay, first off, that's not enough water, and second off, it was sad. But it was interesting because when it was all wet and she wrung out, what little bits of water that was even in there, she stretched the piece this way and then this way and laid it out and made sure everything. But it was a rectangle, so but it didn't say anything about measuring. It didn't say. So
Well, and that might have been like when they say make sure to block your gauge swatch, which I honestly never do.
Yeah.
Maybe I should. That could be what she's doing. She's actually, but I wouldn't.
But
I wouldn't
it wasn't
stretch something.
I mean, she stretched this way and stretched this way, and then
And if someone's watching that, and that's
and
the only guidance they have for blocking, what you make is gonna grow. And if you're that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense on why it says to after blocking your thing should measure this. Because if that's what you're doing with your blocking is you're stretching it. Yeah, you want, if that's how you're going to block, like however you choose to block is what you should do to your gauge swatch. Like I don't tend to stretch unless I'm doing like a shawl that I really want to open up, and that's something that aggressively block, and that is not determined by size. Like not determined by it needs to fit. It's just I want to make this open and pretty. That I will pull the heck out of sometimes.
Yeah.
But if I'm not doing like a sweater or something, I'm not going to pull because I want it to fit. But I guess if I pulled my gauge swatch and blocked it, that's what I would want to do with my sweater. But since I don't pull my gauge swatch, I just go ahead and make it. Like I gently lay it out and measure and make. That means when I'm blocking something I've made, I'm gonna be gentle with it. And if anything, if it decides to, under its own weight of being wet, become larger, I actually will gently squish it back to the measurements, like and try to even out the ruffles if it ruffles up a little bit when I do that. And for me, 9 times out of 10, when it dries, it will bounce back. But you got to do that before it dries because then you've set it. I mean, I think there are probably hacks to undo that a little, but I don't have them because I don't do that. So
So anyway, but I thought that was interesting that that a lot of the quick video are like that they just stretched it, and some of that, I want to say one of the things was to get the stitches all settled and even and everything, but it didn't look like they squished it back to sizing, which I was like, then
you will have a ginormous thing.
Yeah.
But like trying it on to see if it fits before you block it, if you stretched your gauge swatch, what you try on is going to be teeny tiny, and you're going to say this isn't going to fit. But then if you behave the way you did with your gauge swatch, it will. That adds more complication, in my opinion, than I want to give to it. But we are also talking here not as there's only our way of doing it. We know there's other. That's why I try to like field if you do this might happen. I don't know. But that's fascinating though, because that answers, because that's my thing with a lot of knitting groups like Knit and Chat and others. There's a lot of benefits and there's a lot of who knows what's going to happen with it. And I find one of the things that helps Knit and Chat work, or something like that happens to be the one I'm on. I know there's a bajillion out on Facebook. Is you have to hope that, like, a lot of people join Knit and Chat because they don't have a local yarn shop, or right now people can't really visit us on the level they'd like to, or they don't have a knit group where they can ask these questions. So that's their knit group.
Well,
and they're looking on Pinterest and finding these videos and saying, what am I doing?
Well, Pinterest, YouTube, but a lot of the videos are like, this works for me.
Or
so it must work for everybody, kind of thing. I'll go ahead and put a video up, and it doesn't actually work for everybody. For everybody, there are no absolutes in.
And then you have a lot of experts on Knit and Chat, and you have to hope that they find each other and balance out. But you also can have the taking advice from things that don't work, or having people who are experts on Knit and Chat, but it works for them, like you're saying. So, it can be complicated. Anyway, so I did a gauge swatch for this that I did not aggressively block. I just laid out, but I did block this piece when I was done, but I didn't aggressively block it when I was done. I measured what it should measure, and I tried to make sure it fit that. And I'm very, very pleased with the results. And so is my cat. It's one of his favorite things. He needs to be on some form of my knitting to be comfortable. So I was sorting out my knitting bag yesterday. And I was because I did a thing on jobless joins for my tips and tricks. I was gonna show off the sweater I'm in the middle of making. That's on hold. and then he was laying on it, and he looked very comfortable. So it was in the after shot. I always put a shot at the end of my tips and tricks of my cat. And so the only way people saw any of my sweater was the 30 seconds of my cat lying on it. So, anyway.
So what did you work on this week?
Oh, before we move on, I do want to say, so what did you knit your sweater out of?
Barocco Ultra Alpaca.
And
on
a luscious
size
red.
10.5 needle.
And so that is a worsted weight yarn, but she did not stick to a the recommended needle on the label.
I rarely do. And
that's okay. That's something I also want to put out there for the knit and chat type newbies. The people who are looking for answers, because I saw something like that on Knit and Chat where it was like the pattern's calling for a 5 needle, but my ball band says to use a 2. And someone on the Knit and Chat was like, that sounds like you need a DK weight for the pattern, but they're also going by what's on the ball bands. And no, it wasn't. I think it was written.
The pattern I want to say was written for a 10 or a 10.5.
Mm-hmm. The pattern she made.
The pattern I made. It's like with the with fingering weight, I'll bump it up to a 9. Mm-hmm. But there are patterns out there like the Stormy Skies that is actually written. Take your fingering weight, put it on a 9. That's what we.
Yeah, I put a comment on this post. I was just like, in theory, you can knit any yarn with any needle. Now, if you go a lot smaller than the recommended needle on a ball band, it might get challenging and difficult, but that could work for like making a stuffed animal where you don't want the stuffing to show through.
Yeah.
Going bigger, Liz will always tell you to go bigger.
It's just, it's one of those that it doesn't matter.
It's yarn and stitch sometimes. Yeah. And there's different things like sweaters or garments or other things that you might want a different feel to your yarn than others, like shawls. And sometimes you can get when someone says, well, I need it to be soft, but the yarn that they want to make it out of isn't necessarily soft. You can always soften things up to some extent by using a bigger needle.
Yeah. It'll just get nice and drapey
but then if it needs to fit, that's a whole nother issue. But baby blankets, stuff like that, if you want it softer, go up a needle or hook size or 2.
And the gauge on the ball band is like, hey, you don't have a pattern, you just want to make something with uniform stitches out of this teeny tiny or great big thick yarn, whatever. This is the hook we recommend for
the needle, or
needle
for average size
stitches in our yarn.
I have that lecture with my beginning knitters and crocheters like every time. Average stitches, but not everyone's average, and so that they'll say with this average size stitch, and they'll give you a stitch on the ball band. We recommend using this needle or this hook. But that doesn't mean if you use that needle or hook and you don't get that number of stitches that you've somehow failed. You are just knitting different than the average and adjust accordingly.
And designers design their thing. Like they'll be like, hey, I use this yarn and this needle to get this. If you want it to look like this, make a gauge swatch.
Yeah, they'll usually say use size 7 needle or size needed for gauge. They will cover their butts.
Even on a shawl, which I've had a couple issues with. Because I did the shawl, it used half the amount of yarn, and it, supposed to be this ginormous shawl.
Well, and not all pattern writers are average knitters and crocheters.
She had a very tight gauge, and
it's there are a lot of uncertainties. I should say before I move on to what I did this weekend, for people who haven't seen this or joined the podcast since I made this, because it's been a little while because it's been summer, believe it or not. This is the Beth Cardigan. I really love the little beauty back.
It's so cool.
I think it's by Kate Davies, and I'll put it in the comments, in the description, whatever the appropriate word for what I do, the write-up. I made mine out of Norobachi. It's written for a chunky yarn, and they have a pullover version, and I just think it was really fun. It was, I believe, a top down, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And raglan seam.
It was top down, fun. And then you put your color on afterwards.
Yeah. It was fun knit. And yes, winter is finally coming back again, so I get to wear it.
Wow.
At least momentarily.
Momentarily.
I know. Okay, so so I will. I'm debating tomorrow that we may just talk about some of the kits we made, or take a few minutes to talk about the kits we made. So I'll show off my Hotel of Bees again tomorrow. I finished it last week. Still haven't sewn a couple ends in, but you know. I have been working.
It's huge.
It's huge. I'm so close to being done. This is the project I started last Saturday. So a week and like 2 or 3 days, almost a week and a half now.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping to be done yesterday, and then I did a revamp of my newsletter, and that took hours. So I'm not done yet, but I'm really close. But it's just, look, it's
oh my gosh.
huge. And hang on, I'm tangled. Okay, this is the end I'm working on. And it's supposed to be like 80 inches long. Here, let's stand up.
It's a good gnome hat size.
It's supposed to be a good, almost 2 feet wide, which when I block it, it will be. But disclaimer, it will probably curl up again because of different yarn thicknesses. Like this wants to squish in smaller and this bigger. And, but it's supposed to, I'm gonna sew the ends together. I should back up. I'm calling this my Wakanda Forever infinity scarf. It's Nakia's infinity scarf from Black Panther. And I started this after I found out that Chadwick Boseman had passed away. And I've really been focusing only on this. And Sugar Bush Motley just wants to like become teeny tiny. Really? Look how see-through it is. See that? But I said, you know, I'm just gonna, other than finishing Hotel of Bees, I'm just gonna work on this until it's done. And so this is where I ran out. We'll talk about that in a second. But I only have some stockinette with the zombie apocalypse, which is down there, to finish this off. So, we can sit down. But I was thinking, Liz, I have no idea how I'm going to block this. I do want to block this because I want to give it a chance to have it be a uniform width. I know because there's no decorative edging to keep this, to keep it lying flat as I'd like to, it's going to curl again.
Yeah.
Like blocking stockinette or something that has a tendency, stockinette is like knit a row, purl a row when you're going flat. And that's what a lot of these edges are. Blocking stockinette does not solve this completely. Like this curl back here, the curl that it's doing right here, see that? Like I can roll it out and roll it back in again. That may still curl up after I block it. But the lace work that has different sides to it will look nicer. Yeah. Once I block it. And
it'll even out some of
the bumpiness.
The bumpiness.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the bumpiness is on purpose. Like there's a cable section here that is supposed to be bumpy. And blocking won't completely flatten that out, but it'll give it a little more uniformity. So here, let me go through the sections. And part of it feels like it's inside out or upside down, but that's because when I sew the ends together, all these ends I need to weave in, but when I sew these ends together, I'm going to sew the right side to the wrong side so that it has a chance to flip and flop and do lots of fun things. It's been awesome. If nothing else, because I've mentioned before, this was taken from a machine knitting pattern that was actually used in the movie Black Panther. And then a Ravelry user translated it to a hand knit. And there's some glitches and some pockets where it's like, what? And the charts are not written the way I'm used to reading charts. So that was a fun adventure, but doable. I don't know. I mean, if you want to tackle it, go for it. I don't know how much help I can offer, but there is a disclaimer in it, right? Liz, you keep referencing, there is a disclaimer that says like, if something happens or changes or is different, it's part of what makes it unique. So just go with it, you know? I was talking to another knitter who was on a more beginning level who just went, I don't know. And I said, well, you could get some fun colors and do something else as tribute. It doesn't have to be this exactly. It can be an homage to this. but I am offering, if I put kits up, or if you want me to help you pull together a kit, I'm offering 25% off. Because this, I didn't think I was going to use all the yarn, and I've used almost all the yarn. 4 skeins of Noro. This is what I have left.
It eats
That's
yarn.
it. I've got a lot of the zombie barbecue. It's written for 4 yarns, 4 skeins of Noro, 200 grams, and then about 100 grams. The original pattern used fingering weight held double. I went with thicker yarn, but the same grammage, right? I ran out on this section. I am adding some length because my row gauge was off, but I ran out even before the regular, I think, let's see, 1, 2, I was almost done with it when I ran out of the Feeder Brook farm. And so I continued and added a whole nother repeat with Motley, Sugar Bush Motley, which was used, not to be confusing at all, in this section down here, because I have a crap ton of that left. But none of, so I've got 1, 2, 3, none of my 4th.
But the cool thing about that is it's designed to look almost scrappy.
Yeah,
like
it really is. Like some sections are short and some sections are long. This one had some twisted stitches. This was the first section, only about 6 inches. The second section goes back and forth, front and back, with some weaving. The third section had a decrease in it to look like it's stitched together to the 4th section with some eyelets. The 4th section stitched together, and then ribbing, irregular ribbing. Excuse me. 5th section, cables on this side, but I'm seeing it worn a lot. And I'm not doing it in the colors from the movie. I'm doing it in, I started with Noro Silk Garden, which is used in the movie version, but a totally different colorway. This one right here, the really bright one, and dark one. Dark and broody and bright. Love it. And then I just found other ones with earth tones or things I liked to involve in the rest. And then this lace one that's got the back lacy side and the front lacy side, depending on how I choose to wear it. And then there'll be stockinette, which is just knitting and purling for the last section.
You could change up your 4 bowls of Silk Garden. You could do as many colors or as few colors. I also thought you could do a ball of Ito instead of the 4 Silk Gardens.
Ooh, that would be pretty, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Ito is a slightly different feel because it's just wool instead of like wool and mohair and a little bit of silk and the funky combo. Noro makes some giant balls of yarn that have the Silk Garden component to them. We don't carry them in the shop. But, and I did some piecing to make it look like the colorway just naturally went. Like you can see some of my ends in here. But it's been fun. If nothing else, if no one else wants to make this shawl, that's okay. Or this infinity scarf. It's not why I made it. I didn't make it to inspire like tons of kits to get sold or to have everybody do it with me. If you want to, awesome. Like I said, time to help you with it. I'm not sure. I don't mean that as like a I don't care about you. Just time and energy.
It was a personal project. Mm-hmm. The pattern, I've looked at the pattern. It's complicated on the best of time. It's not like terribly difficult, but it requires an intermediate knitting level. Like you can read charts
or just have fun with it and make it up.
Yeah, but it's
and again, reading charts is not like the reading charts that I've done videos on. Is different.
It's
some rudimentary similarities, but and it's all written out too. But that can be confusing in its own way. So if nothing else, I have a wonderful sample of how 4 of my yarns knit up and look. And that's fantastic.
It's gorgeous.
And I've had a lot of fun with it and a lot of, pondering and thoughtfulness with it. And I can't wait to finish it. I do want to get back to all my other projects, but I have thoroughly enjoyed this. And it's been really interesting what we jokingly called pulling a Shia, where shout out to Shia, where I really, other than a little bit of work on this, I've really only been working on this, and it's had its ups and downs, I will say. I mean, I've done, oh my gosh, look at this in a week, even being really busy with the shop. But I am itching to get back to old projects and start new ones, which I can talk about tomorrow. So, because I pulled
She
together.
has projects in mind.
I made kits, and I need to start the thing I made the kits for, because oh my gosh, it's gonna be pretty, I hope. So
I got my one sweater done. I'm like,
woohoo! But I really should probably finish my striped sweater before which is the gauge of this, basically. It's thick, so it should get done quickly, and I'm on the sleeves before I start another sweater. But
and you have actually quite a few sweaters on needles.
you don't have to mention that.
You have
I have about
almost
6 other sweaters I want to start.
You have almost as many sweaters on needles as I have papillons on needles. Now
okay.
She's got to think about that.
Okay. I have the hip stripe sweater. I have the Steingas Wintersol. I finished this one. I have one I'm kind of trying to make for Brian, but there's like an inch of it. Are we counting my sugar bush one? I don't even know where it is. If we count that,
it's like years
on
old.
needles. Yeah, it's like when I opened the shop old. That's 4. Are you thinking of other ones that I'm not thinking of?
I'm probably in my head including all the ones you've taken home yarn to start.
Maybe. The Jupiter crop, which I haven't started yet, would be 5. And the Calliope that I haven't started yet would be 6. So I'm getting close. Which means I need to finish some stuff. Because I have more shawls on needles than that. So.
I did work some on my hat.
Did you? Show it off.
Show it off?
Yeah.
I am on the 3rd Fair Isle section.
Yeah, it's really cool. I realized that both of our thumbnails last week for the straight up sideshow were your yarn, which is okay, which is kind of fun. And then people at midnight thought it was white and black, but yeah, that finally looks blue.
It's brown and light blue.
Yeah.
And
it's really cool. Ice.
Deep chocolate, almost like that.
And a great example of how it's so hard to capture real color on film and in pictures.
Yep. And then an ice blue, and
same thing with this. There's some teals in this that won't look teal.
They don't. They look weird.
They look blue or something else. I don't know. So that's looking amazing as well. And disclaimer that her gnome hats do not have a written pattern.
No, and this one I made too big at the bottom.
But you come
once
too far.
It's all safety pinned on my head, nobody will know.
When it's staple gun to her head.
Bobby pins. Uh-huh. Anyway.
Anyway.
Safety pins are for dresses. Yeah. So once it's on my head, it'll look good. And anyway, it's not eating as much yarn as I thought it would.
Did I mention I used my Nasta pin quite a bit this weekend when I was rolling off yarn so that things could match? I had all these cute little Nasta pin wound skeins that then I used so I couldn't show them off. Are you weighing how much you have?
I am. I have 62 grams, which I started with about 198, 100 grams.
You got tons of yarn left.
I'm using every other row. So
she gets a lot of
yarn.
I
was worried it was going to be a short gnome hat.
You bought more baby butts and unicorn kisses. You're going to be fine.
I might need more because that's only 80 yards.
Well, I might need to order more yarn for these kits at some point if people buy up all the yellow. So I'll have to order more baby butts and unicorn kisses to replace what you bought.
I've broke into right here.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
There's not a ton of yarn.
Right here, from the end to right here, is one skein. And it's
that's decent.
Once it gets to here, it's every other row or every other stitch.
Decent.
So it's not bad, but
I love that it's every other row, but it doesn't look like it because
the colors are almost
your chocolates, when there's two plies of chocolate in your yarn, it blends. It's really amazing.
And I've done it every other row, and both of them feel soft. So you can't.
You still have your sweater on.
I do.
I'm so proud.
I thought about taking it off, but then I was like, she has the air on. I'll be cool. And then I'll take it off.
Sun's out though, so
yeah.
you know who knows.
It's supposed to be
today.
80 today, so warmer, but you know,
not bad.
No.
I'm looking at my.
It's not like Colorado weather. They were 90 degrees in Colorado Springs yesterday, and today they're supposed to get 5 inches of snow.
It's insane.
Oh, I miss the mountains. That's gonna be so cool.
I'll talk more about this tomorrow.
She just has to tease you today.
Maybe if I finish enough of this, I'll start. It was so soft.
How much more do you have to go on your Wakanda Forever?
This section I'm planning on. It was only written for three arrows, but I've been adding to make length. To finish this set of arrows, which again, it's a really thin stripe of sugar bush, but whatever, scrappy, yay. I think I only have about 3 or 4 more rows. And then it's stockinette for until it's the right length, basically. It might be 10, 15, 20 rows of stockinette. I need to measure it. It could be I've overshot because I keep trying to make up for short.
For your gauge. Yeah. She did do a gauge swatch, and her stitch count's right.
I measured it after I started.
Okay, so she swatched.
I started on the needles recommended. It was like 6 or 8s. I'll do 8s. And I started, and then I went, let's just see how this is going.
And her rows are a bit shorter.
I mean, everything's too small.
Yeah.
But A, I didn't want to restart, and B, I like the way it felt. So I said,
Would you have had to go up or down?
I would have to go up. Because everything was too many rows, too many stitches fitting in the same area. Like I need to expand the size of my stitches and rows to make it fit theirs. And so I said, I am going to, like usually with a scarf, that doesn't matter. So what? It's a little smaller, but this is supposed to be huge and maybe be able to wrap around someone of Lupita Nyong'o's size twice. Me, probably not so much unless I have more length. The girls, whatever. Anyway, but so I didn't want it to be teeny tiny, and I think I've accomplished that goal. So I did math on it's supposed to be about 4.5 rows per inch, and I'm getting about 6 rows per inch. Squishy, right? So I've been adding on in whatever way makes the most sense to each section to hopefully get it to be about math-wise the same length as the section is supposed to be. Like this section in here between my fingers is supposed to be about 22 inches. And so I was able to duplicate cable repeats enough to get to 22 inches, and it worked out pretty well. So we'll have to measure it today, clear off the table or lay it on the floor or something.
We might need 2 tape measures because I think most of ours only go to 6.
Yes, or measure and mark, and then, yeah. We have a lot of tape measures in the shop, though. It's got a point. Anyway. There's different ways to solve that problem.
Hold my spot, Liz. Hold my spot. This spot? No, that spot.
Oh, I wish we weren't on camera. I got things for you. We have someone walking up to the shop, and it is 10 o'clock. So we have to go. We love you, and we miss you. And if you'd like to write us for Dear Becky and Lizzy, we have 1 letter. She's going to knock on the door in a second. But please write us for Thursday's issues of Dear Becky and Lizzy, which Sundragon Art and Fiber, 35 South Broad Street, Brevard, North Carolina, 28712. Bye.